Hello, welcome. Today I'm going to be working on the lovely Ashley, and we're going to be doing a anterior sports leg massage. Let's go ahead and get started. If you don't have time to watch this video right now, go ahead and save to your watch later and just watch whenever you get a chance. So always when I am doing a massage face up or face down, I like to make sure that the knees are bent and the legs are nice and relaxed to start. This takes a lot of pressure off of the low back as well. So to begin, I'm just gonna make sure that Ashley's hands are somewhere where I'm not gonna be fumbling into them and I can get into a nice flow. And I really like to do a proper warm up. So I'm just gonna do some compressive holds, and I'm going to start really slow just because it's a nice way to let Ashley get used to my touch and just relax into the table a little bit. I'm working on this lateralis muscle. This is the quadricep muscle that kind of tends to carry the most tension, especially when someone is really active. This muscle can get so tight that it pulls on the hips and the low back. It's a really important area to work on when you're doing a sports focused massage. And as I do these compressive holds, I like to include the knee. And of course, you want to be really gentle when you're working on these attachment sites, but it's really good to put some pressure on these tendons. But just using a lot of good judgment here. And working my way down the leg, I'm going to land on this tibialis with my thumbs. And as I do these warm-ups, I kind of just want to make somewhat of a plan as I pick up on, the areas that feel the most tense, while keeping in mind what my client's preferences are. So Ashley isn't someone that likes really super deep tissue. Kind of making somewhat of a plan. So I like to do at least a couple passes down the leg. You can work your way back up, kind of reverse what you did. Trying to make things feel as cohesive and good as possible. And sometimes when you pick up your hands and move to a separate part of the body, it can just feel a little choppy. At this point, you can start to land on that medialis, on the inner part of the leg. Typically, if somebody is really active, they're going to have a lot of tension and trigger points in that outer quad muscle, but not as much on the inner part of the leg, unless they're really intentional about working out that area of their body. Tends to be overstretched and kind of weak on the average person. And you can even land on these hip flexors a little bit and just make sure that you're staying in your client's comfort zone. This can actually be pretty painful on people that are really active. Can feel nice to hold for a little bit. Right now, I'm just thinking that we definitely need to work on my T-band. So I'm going to go ahead and go in laterally with my soft fists. I might step away from the table a little bit so I have a little more space and freedom to go in a way that's going to not feel weird for me and feel good to Ashley. just always, keep in mind the IT band is a really sensitive spot to have worked on. You want to go in pretty slow. So I am really enjoying this dry work because I can easily just catch hold of the tissue that I'm working on. So once I apply the oil, it's going to be a little bit trickier. I really enjoy this dry work when I'm doing more sports focused leg massage. And I'm honestly going to go down just one more time, and I'm working on the slower side. You can find a pace that works for you. You can go a little quicker if that feels better. Usually with sports massage, there's a higher degree of tension in the muscle, so I like to just take my time. I didn't really warm up the femoris or intermedius muscle very well, so I'm going to go ahead and land on the middle of the quads. Work on these two muscles. And I'd say it's just important to not be overly mechanical when you're doing this kind of work. Really work more organically. Gonna feel more satisfying to your client. You're gonna make more progress. If somebody struggles with knee pain, especially on the inside of the knee, you can linger a little bit longer on that medialis muscle. Really squeeze. Can take a lot of pressure off of the knee. Get a proper release. And at this point, I think I'm ready to get my oil. So because this is a more technical kind of sports focused massage, I'm grabbing a little less oil. And just gonna go in with some effleurage, walking the hands. And just don't, waste your oil. I'm not gonna put a whole lot of oil on that inner portion of the thigh because I'm not going to work on that area very much. Really focused on this outer thigh, this lateralis muscle, and the IT band. At this point, if you didn't get enough oil for the lower leg, I would say just work on the upper leg and then go back for more oil, but up to you. And honestly, I don't really need very much oil for the lower leg, so I think I'm good. And you typically have a lot of sensitivity in your finger pads and the palm of your hand. So just kind of feeling for any trigger points. And this also gives Ashley a sort of blueprint for the kind of work that we're going to be doing. And when your client knows what's coming, they're usually able to relax a little bit more. So if you are feeling kind of tired, little tricks to give you more stability, like hooking your elbow into your hip, just naturally gives you more stability. The quickest way that you can tire yourself out doing a more technical massage is being really loose with your body and forgetting that your arm is an extension of your core and your whole body. So just keeping that in mind. As I start to move in a little bit deeper, I like to just throw in some really relaxing, soothing effleurage strokes. And I do like to include the hip flexors because they can get really tense on people that are very active. And you can decide how detailed you want to get here. I personally feel like you can get so much done using your soft fist and your forearm that you don't necessarily need to use your thumb. You can. So I'm not hooking my elbow into my hips, but I feel pretty good because I'm working from my core. And I'm just keeping in mind that Ashley is someone who doesn't like super deep tissue. So sports massage doesn't necessarily equate to, super deep. It can, but that's not always the case. So we're making some really nice progress in here. This lateralis muscle. And I'll kind of wait for a proper release before moving on to the IT band. Sometimes the connective tissue along the IT band where it's closest to the lateralis muscle gets super sticky, and it's really important to work on that area. So you can use the heel of your hand when you're working on this IT band, but be really careful that the angle of your wrist doesn't become too exaggerated, because that's not good for your wrist. It can really affect the joints in there. So I kind of step towards the lower side of the table to get that proper angle of my wrist. Or if you feel like you want to go deeper and you need more stability, you can do that soft fist and then start to just bring your hand up the leg. And just taking my time here. I'll be thinking about something soothing that I can offer after more uncomfortable work like this. And petrissage is a really nice segue into something that feels more relaxing. If I were to do a proper petrissage for the lateralis muscle, I would work on the opposite side of the table. But for filming purposes, I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to step away from the table and start a kneading type motion. A little awkward when you're trying to access this outer quad, but as you get to the middle, this is a great angle to be doing the petrissage technique. And I am gonna work on that inner quad, that medialis, and I'm actually gonna bring this technique around the knee. Once I'm ready to work on that lower leg. And don't worry if you feel a little choppy in your petrissage technique because you don't have a lot of oil. Don't worry too much about it. It's still gonna feel really nice. One thing that you can do is just really slow down if you feel like you're struggling with that quicker motion. And I always slow down when I work around the knee. Starting to work on this tibialis muscle. And it's okay if you need to kind of re-angle the leg a little bit. So I'm not just using my thumb pads, I'm using the whole surface area of my thumb as much as I can. And using my whole hand. This petrissage technique. It's really good if you kind of have that sensation of stickiness and not super glidey when you're working on this area. Go in with my thumbs again, just moving a little bit deeper this time. And this is kind of a sped up version of what a sports massage looks like that I would offer my clients. So I do like to include the calves. So I don't really have much oil, but at this point in the massage I don't want to grab more, so I'm just gonna kind of knead the back side of the leg. Looking on that calf a little bit. I'd say the best thing you can do when you're working on the legs is remember to use your whole body. Work smarter, not harder. So I'll often encourage you guys to kind of do a nice long effleurage stroke up the whole leg to finish, but if you're feeling like your flow is a little choppy because you don't have enough oil, it's perfectly okay to just do a nice stroke the lower part of the leg. It feels really good if you include the knee though. And that is all for today. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed today's video, you should check out our Patreon page where you'll find some really great exclusive content. I look forward to seeing you there.